Hello, viewers. Once more, this is your host and presenter, Dr. Uzo, and welcome again once more to our programming, the Healthy Living Show, your channel for heritage health. And we're glad today for the opportunity once more the Omega Studio has given us to empower you, to inform you, to actually educate you on your health. In fact, your health is very, very important. That's why we are actually talking about health today. And because when you lose your health, you lose everything. I mean, when you have your health, you can fight through anything. So, health actually is the ultimate wealth. The scripture says that, brethren, I wish above all things that thou mayest be in health and prosper, even as your health so prospereth. So, we are glad today again to talk about health. Every detail about health, from pillar of health to what keeps us healthy, to our cardinal program in keeping you healthy, whole, and also program for reversing disease and degeneration. So today, let's just start and right on. What is health? I'm glad you asked. Well, health is defined by the World Health Organization as a state of mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical wholeness, not necessarily the absence of disease or symptoms. But I will add to that definition that if you have minor disease, pain, difficulty, stiffness, you can't really say you are in health or perfect health. And I want to say something and add something to that definition also. Between health, or should I say optimum health, to disease and degeneration, there is a continuum or a spectrum. Well, some people will have vibrant health. A lot of people have never really known what it means to be truly healthy. Then up to disease with symptoms and degeneration, of course, and finally death. But I want to talk about the spectrum. And this is also where people make a lot of mistakes, including doctors. Because of this continuum, there is optimum health, whereby there is no symptoms, degenerations, or complaints at all, including pain, the greatest thing that brings people to hospital. Then there is the time whereby even the test cannot show up. The blood test cannot show up in your test results. It cannot be picked up. And that is the area whereby the doctor or people will go to hospital and come back and tell you, well, I did this test and everything is fine. That doesn't mean the disease is not there. But because disease have incubation period from the time of infection or from the time of trauma or from the time of the pathogen or infective agent or alien substance or foreign body that is in the body to the time you manifest the disease or symptoms, there's a continuum. And this time around, the tests do not pick it up. So don't be surprised that you go to your doctor and they run all the tests, and I hear this often, and they will tell you, well, everything is okay. Usually I don't say or agree or concur with them. I said, I want to know what is okay. I want to go through the test because I know, understand process. Because none of us can escape the biological consequences of sowing and reaping, cause and effect. The same thing applies to health. So there is a point whereby there is no degeneration, there is no symptoms, there is no complaint. That doesn't mean the person is healthy, and that doesn't mean that the test, that is normal is accurate. Because tests can have false negative or false positives. For instance, mammography. Now, also, when you look at the continuum or the spectrum, there's a time when people begin to manifest symptoms. And that is where the orthodox doctors, medical doctors, that are trained in the Western methodology that does not know other integrative parts of health will now begin to treat symptoms based on the test results. So the lab test can be deceptive, it can be misleading if you don't know these disease processes or if you're not experienced in what health spectrum are or what they should be. Now, When the symptoms begin to show up, that is when people actually come to hospital or seek help in some cases. Nobody is supposed to live with pain or swelling, because pain is number one thing that brings people to hospital. So at this point, this is when the symptoms manifest. Pain or swelling or tumor. These are the main things that bring people to hospital. Or if they have an accident or heart attack or fainting spells, or feeling dizzy or feeling tired, or their energy is being drained or there is bleeding. These are the main things, especially women, that bring them to hospital. Now, test again may not be accurate. It may not pick up everything, even when the symptoms are there. Up to the point whereby there is degeneration and then there is death. So, health is not one thing, it's not black and white. There's a spectrum and there's a continuum. Now, another thing we have to talk about here, child of God, is that the difference between health and medicine and healing, these three are totally different. And I'll break them down so that you can take them down. When it comes to health, you don't have to be sick. In other words, there's no disease. Because an illness is the body reaction to an injury, be it infective, be it nutritional deficiency, be it, habit, lifestyle destructive habit like smoking or drinking alcohol, or, smoking recreative drugs or marijuana. Those things can cause trouble, including cigarette. These are, lifestyle or habit forming stuff, addictions. Before they start giving symptoms, we don't classify those as health. We classify those as disease and degeneration. It doesn't matter the lifestyle that created it. So the first thing about health is to remove the problem, to remove the intruder, remove the origin, remove the source that created that disease. And because of that, health is different from managing sickness or disease maintenance or treating symptoms. The Western modality, which is just a part of the healing spectrum, is to treat symptoms, to suppress symptoms. In health or in natural medicine per se, you don't suppress symptoms. You treat the root cause of the disease in order to effect healing. You don't medicate, you eradicate. You don't control symptoms per se. You actually treat the system, the organs, the glands, or the tissues that are degenerating or that are sick. Also, you go to the root cause if you really want to get rid of disease or reverse illness. You don't suppress symptoms. This is one of the things that pharmaceuticals do. Synthetic pharmaceutical, because every drug has side effects. And because of that, they create problems apart from the good they do. And we call these side effects. Herbs don't do the same. Herbs are gentler. Herbs are safer. They may be slower. And they are less expensive. Do you know that 80% of world population, according to World Health Organization, depend on herbs and not synthetic pharmaceutical, or what I call synthetic drugs, for their hair care need? So, again, we also have to understand the difference between health and healing. Healing is that you are trying to fix what has already been damaged in the body. That's why we're alive. The body was actually created naturally to detoxify and heal itself. Whereas drugs alter natural processes. Drugs alter physiology. They alter biochemistry. They alter the natural body mechanisms that actually modulate or regulate the body. That is why, if you want to maintain health, what I call proactive health, herb is the way to go. Incorporate them into your daily food, into your daily drinks, into your daily routine. That is the way. And according to Dr. Bernard Jessen, and I quote, he said, anything that can heal a disease can also prevent it. So what I normally do is preventive maintenance, and it's only 5% of people that actually take advantage of preventive maintenance, because if you have knowledge, if you have information, if you have wisdom, the way to go is proactive medicine. Don't wait till the rainy day. Don't wait. There's one Chinese proverb that says, if you start taking medicine when you are sick, it is already too late. Just like you don't start digging well when you are thirsty, it's already too late. So what you and I should do is preventive maintenance, because information is transformation. Education is medication. The greatest prescription is knowledge. It's not drug, it's not doctor, it's not hospital. There's no panacea, there's no silver bullet. The only silver bullet you have is the body that heals itself. And we need to learn the pathway of nature. That's what we call natural path. We can't improve on nature. We follow the pathway of nature and we will never go wrong, because nature is God's signature. Don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those people that talk about nature as God and as their mother. No, nature is not the created. Nature is created. Nature is not the creator. And nature responds to divinity. God created nature. Nature is God's signature. So I'm not talking about nature like all these new age people that have jumped into the bandwagon and they are into holistic medicine and they are trying to, dehumanize God and humanize nature. Please, I'm not part of them. God created us. God put nature together and put everything that will cure us in our environment. In other words, I don't need Chinese stuff to get healthy. I don't need Chinese stuff to be well. I don't need Chinese stuff to be whole. In my environment, God has put things in that environment to keep me healthy and trim and powerful and energized. And that's the key. Now, we want to talk about something very dear to my heart, especially if you understand deliverance and divine healing. Divine healing is different from divine health. And I have to make this distinction, because if you break it down, you take it down so that you can understand the distinctive differences. God's will for everybody, both Christian and non-Christian, is divine health, not divine healing. People tend to elevate divine healing, but divine health is God's primary intention, is God's perfect will, that we should not even be sick in the first place. That is divine health. God said in Exodus, he said, I will not put any of these diseases on my people that has afflicted the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that healed them. God doesn't even want sickness to be in his people at all, because sickness is foreign. Sickness is aberration. Sickness is not part of our birthright and part of our heritage. But disease come, and when they come, because we are in an imperfect fallen world, then God becomes our healer as our physician. So divine healing is second best after we suffer sickness. That's why when people are sick, we want them to get well as quickly as possible. Because when you lose your health, you can't fight. You can go through anything. You can fight anything, whether it be stress in its ramification. But when you lose your health, you lose everything. Now, because I hear some people say, well, I'm not health conscious, I'm not a health nut. All of us are wearing this flesh and blood. And we need to be health conscious, every single one of us. Unless you are made of steel. And even then, you still need healing, you need fixing. So this is why this is important. Another thing we should know also, child of God, is that why do we get sick? Why do we get sick? The reasons why we get sickness. Number one, nutrient deficiency. The body is a divine machine. It's a divine creation, a wonder. The scripture says we are wonderfully and fearfully made. And because of that, God created us to run on some nutrients, on fuel, on some food and drink. And number one is that a lot of us walk around empty. We are depleted. We don't have the essential nutrient, the essential blood, building blocks. From our definition of health, you discover that according to the father of medicine, Hippocrates, the father of Western medicine, he said it is the innate forces in man that does the healing. And that man is a whole, holistic, self-cleansing, and self-healing organism. And given the right intake, given the right raw materials, given the right food, will fix itself, will heal itself, will go back to wholeness. So when we lack these essential nutrients, minerals, vitamins, enzymes, proteins, carbohydrates, sugars, natural sugars, and then of course phytonutrients. When we get all the nutrients that we need, the minerals, don't forget, very important, then our body will fix itself. When we lack these minerals, when we lack these substances and nutrients, when we lack these phytochemicals, the body will begin to degenerate. The body will begin to age. The body will begin to ache and suffer disease, what we call disease or sickness. So, a lot of times, I have never seen anybody that do not need more nutrition, that did not need more building blocks. 100% of us, no exception, is running on empty, lacking one nutrient or the other. That's why we should take variety of fruit and vegetable. You have to eat in color. Yellow fruit, green fruit, red fruit, blue fruit. And this is in our produce sections of our grocery store. We need those nutrients. Nobody lives on pills, child of God. Another thing we need, or another thing that causes sickness, rather, that we need to get rid of, is toxicity. Do you know, child of God, that every year, at least 2,000 chemicals are poured into the United States market? Not just the market, but also the big pharmaceutical industry are busy bringing one synthetic chemicals or the other. Not just prescription drug, but also over-the-counter drugs. And then also household chemicals, cleaning substances. They are all over. Our environment is polluted. Pollution in the air, pollution in the water we drink, pollution in the colored sugar waters we take. We call them chemicals. And I tell people, I don't take chemicals, I take pure water. So also pollution in our food, very important, because of chemicalized farming with pesticides, insecticides, herbicides, fungicides, and all the sides. And also the fertilizer is even petroleum products because they are organofoods first. And farmers use this thing liberally. That's why processed foods are cheaper, because the government substitutes all this junk or processed or chemicalized or polluted food. That's what I call it, including your milk. Your milk is liquid meat. And because of that, we get sick with time. The reason is that toxins tend to accumulate. One doctor in New York, very popular, Sherry, wrote a book, and he called it Detoxify or Die. The key to vibrant health, which is my heartbeat, is for you to do continuous cleansing and detox. We need it because a lot of us are toxic, both emotionally, both physically, both spiritually. we need to detoxify. Very important. Continuous cleansing. And I've done all kinds of cleansing. I've done colon cleansing or colon detoxification. I've done liver cleansing. I've done kidney cleansing. I've done parasite cleanse. I've done candida cleanse. I've done chelation, which is heavy metal detoxification and cleansing. I've done all kinds of cleanse, and we yet do it continuously for vibrant health. Because when these toxins pollute our body, pollute this system, pollute our organs, they become sluggish. They can't do their job. They can't eliminate. They can't digest food. And the body begin to age. The body begin to produce disease. The body becomes stiff. The body become, weak and sluggish. And this is a problem. Secondly, child of God, stress is another contributing factor or causative factor to illness. None of us can eliminate stress, but we can manage stress. The body was not designed to be too stressful. You and I need a little stress to wake up in the day, do our job, and fulfill purpose, and while we are here on earth. But prolonged stress or protracted stress or chronic stress is not good for the body. And that's why stress is a contributing background factor for virtually any illness. It doesn't matter whether you have high blood pressure, cancer, increased cholesterol, sluggish organs, agitation, name it. Stress is a biggie. And not just stress, but distress. Here, we are not just talking about food. We are talking about food for thought. We are not talking about what you are eating. We are talking about what is eating you. So, what you are eating is not as important as what is eating you. So you can take all the green juice, take all the raw food, take all the good multivitamin and supplements and hormones and enzymes and all the good stuff. But if you don't control stress, it may not mean a thing. That doesn't mean squat. So I encourage you to not just control what you eat, but also what you think or what is stressing you. As a matter of fact, the adrenal gland, which is our stress gland, respond to stress the same way. It doesn't matter the source or origin of the stress or what is causing or tripping or triggering the stress. And I'll give you an example. If the cause is marital tension, somebody is going through a divorce or rocky marriage or bad relationship, the body reacts the same way. Financial stress and worry. Nutritional stress or deficiency. Stress with children, runaway children, difficult teenagers, even stress with you meeting a deadline or job-related stress or being fired from the job or bereavement or in a loss. The body literally reacts to stress pretty much the same way by raising your stress hormones, especially your cortisol, adrenaline, and noradrenaline. In America, we call it epinephrine and norepinephrine. When cortisol rises, it will go and antagonize insulin. So that will create insulin resistance and syndrome S, setting you up for prediabetes and sometimes eventually diabetes, setting you up for atherosclerosis and high blood pressure, heart disease, heart attacks, brain attacks or stroke, heart failure and cardiomyopathy, to name a few. Also, cortisol antagonizes, or rather, should I say precisely that cortisol stimulates estrogen, the female hormone. And this estrogen is the bad estrogen. And the bad estrogen is the estradiol, sometimes called estradiol. There are 3 types of estrogen. The good estrogen is estrol. The bad estrogen, the very bad estrogen, is estradiol. the one that strives to cause inflammation and fibrosis, and the one that stress really mitigates to increase. And then, of course, the last estrogen is estrogen, which is somewhere in between. But when it comes to estrogen and cortisol, what it does is that it will make cortisol, rather, will make estrogen to rise. And when estrogen rises, inflammation increases, fibrosis increases, oxidation or generation of free radical increases, acidity increases in the blood and in the tissues. What happens is that the body will begin to store the excess fat in the fat cells. So stress can cause fat gain or weight, chronic systemic weight gain. And it's a biggie, it's a big problem. So, and also, not only is there insulin resistance, diabetes can actually result from all these complications. And from diabetes, it can affect the eyes, can affect the legs, it can affect the kidneys, the diabetic kidney. It can affect every part of the body. It becomes a systemic illness. And enough of that, we'll still come back to that later. But one other thing I found that creates a lot of disease and people do not take cognizance. This is the bane of the modern man. And people don't want to or like to talk about this one. Constipation. Yes. Sometimes I call it stagnation or sluggishness. Let me explain. One of the things I found out with people is that an average person walking around is constipated and they don't even know it. Before, I used to ask people, do you move the bowel daily? They say, yeah. Are you regular? They say, yes. Now, when I understand that people don't even know what it means to be regular, they don't even know how many times is constipation, and because most of them have been told by their doctors that, hey, if you move the bowel 2 or 3 times a week, that's fine, it's okay. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's not okay. If you don't move the bowel at least 2 or 3 times a day, you are constipated. If you eat 3 times a day, you must move the bowel 3 times a day. If you eat twice a day, I'm not talking about snacks, the main meals, what we call square meal. If you eat 3 times a day, you're supposed to go and open the bowel 3 times a day. If not, you are constipated, you are sluggish, you are backed up. And that's the mother of all diseases, stagnation. And I'm not just talking about stagnation of the gastrointestinal tract, but also stagnation of your organs, stagnation in your cardiovascular system, your circulation, especially the arteries, where people, experience block. We call it atherosclerosis. The one athero means your artery or your blood vessel. And then sclerosis means hardening. And when it hardens, the blood pressure increases. The heart have to muster a lot of energy to pump the same body or volume of blood through the arteries and general circulation. And then the person become constipated or stagnating, or we call it atherosclerosis. Even in the kidney, there's atherosclerosis because the filtering apparatus of the kidney, the glomerulus, is a modified arterioles. So glomerulosclerosis or glomerulonephritis can also be attributed to problems with your circulation, with atherosclerosis, because kidney is a very sensitive area. It's a very low pressure bed. Anytime there's sclerosis, there's always hardening. And when there's hardening, it will begin to affect filtration. And then kidney can also raise the blood pressure. And that is a biggie. Another thing that we will consider that causes problems is spiritual forces. People don't really talk about this one that much. And being in deliverance, I will tell you that spiritual problems can be a real cause. Well, we're going to take a break. Don't go away. Stay with me. I'll be right back.